Yeah, he said, yeah, you're either, it was a beer, or was it, or a doer. You can either be or do. And those who get up to that level are usually the ones who are, the beer, or I think that's what the beers, not doers. Uh, and it's more of a political game from that field level.
Yeah, I think they're political animals. I do. I think it requires you to be a political animal. In my interviews for the Pineapple book after the collapse, I interviewed quite a few senior officers, very senior, and yeah, I left with the impression that they were political animals. They did not do what they knew to be morally right, and they did not take a stand on behalf of the men and women who had voluntarily served under them and fought for them for years and had done so loyally, and who they knew were on the phones trying to do the right thing. They sat silent, or they worked in the shadows and didn't take a stand publicly, as only a flag officer can do. Right? I mean, that's the thing. When a flag officer throws her stars down on the table, retired or active duty, that is a powerful gesture. And I actually had several of them come back at me and say, Scott, well, do you think we should just throw our stars down anytime we disagree with a president? And my response was, when it's morally wrong, yes, I do. And so do a lot of other veterans and their families and these Gold Star families. And, you're the one that has to live with it, I guess. But that's just how I feel. And then every day that goes by, I feel stronger about it because I see these men and women that are killing themselves, that are asking themselves if it mattered, if it was worth it. And that is such an egregious thing to heap on the shoulders of these amazing men and women who gave us so much. They should never have to ask that question. And they should never have been put in a position where they were cashing in their kids' college funds and their 401ks so that they could pay for safe houses and medical drops for allies who were abandoned by the government. As my buddy Duke says, we put these veterans in a position where they had to solve an Uncle Sam sized problem with a pension fund. And that is unforgivable. And if you allowed that to happen without raising your voice, shame on you. That's all I can say.
Simple answer: if it's contrary to your core values, and every branch has them.
Isn't that what we're taught?
Tell me a little bit more about Operation Pineapple Express.
Well, that was essentially that was what that was. It was a group of volunteers, men and women who mostly special operators, mostly special forces, but not all, who were each trying to help an ally or a friend get out of that country. It started with me and Nizam, my buddy, Sergeant First Class Nizam, and it just evolved into once we got him out, a group using Signal, our cell phones, and relationships to basically create kind of an underground railroad to help these allies get out, and in close coordination with some guys from the 82nd Airborne and the Marines, and to just honor a promise, and get as many out as we could. I think when it was all said and done, maybe close to 1,000 got out, but a lot more didn't. And since then, look, by the way, Pineapple Express was one of hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteer groups who were all doing great work. And I think honestly, there was nothing unique about what Pineapple did in the context of those other groups. But what I will say is we told the story pretty actively. And I think that story resonated with people. And then I ended up writing a book on it because I wanted the story to be told from the third person, not at this time, one time at band camp, but from the third person of what the men and women on the ground, the Afghans did, and their U.S. partners who cared about them. And so it resonated. I think it stuck. I think it became kind of emblematic of bottom up leadership and what getting big stuff done when nobody's coming. And 3 years later, people are still, I think they still look at Pineapple as what's good in America. And I agree. I think it is.
Well, there's a growing divide. We're becoming more polarized. That we're becoming more we're angry. It seems more often we're more pissed off at our friends, family, neighbors, by simple comments. And what's going on there? And can we can we turn this around?
I think we can, and it's really that's the essence of the book that I've got coming out on October 1st. Is Nobody's Coming to Save You, a Green Beret's Guide to Getting Big Stuff Done. And the whole premise behind it, Aaron, is that these conditions that you just described, distraction, disengagement, absence of purpose, disconnection from each other, and distrust, is what I call the churn. And it's a novel, unprecedented set of social conditions that we face that we didn't have 5 years ago. It's very, very similar to what we saw in Afghanistan. It's a very high degree of social division. But the enemy isn't the Democrat or Republican across from you. It's not the person that cuts you off in traffic. It's not, it's not the person that votes for a different presidential candidate from your extended family. The enemy is the churn. It is this novel set of social conditions, because what it does is it causes us as humans to go primal. It causes us to go into a fear-based state of trance, where we look at our neighbor, we look at our coworker, we look at our teammate in our company with contempt normally reserved for one's enemies, as Sebastian Younger says it. And the problem with that is that leads to a poor bottom line. It leads to people not following your vision. It leads to reluctant clients. And ultimately, it can lead to organizational and even societal collapse. I've seen it. This churn is a very dangerous thing. And so there's an antibody to that. And it's understanding this human operating system, this primal creature that we are, that we have been for 250,000 years, and then understanding that reality and using old school interpersonal skills to build relationships and social capital in the face of that churn. That is the antibody. And the reality is nobody's coming to save us to do that. Nobody's going to come riding over the hill to make that happen. No matter who wins this election, we're going to be more divided than when we started. And nobody's coming. The same way when we were in that village, nobody was coming. It was up to us to build the connections. And so I believe that's where we are today. And that's what this book that I wrote is about. It's a handbook for building relationships in low trust situations, the churn. Because what I found is what works in life and death works even better in life and business.